Welcome to another edition of the Peter Degedo D program. Thought I'd talk to you guys today about Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you have been paying attention to what has been going on over there, but North Korea and Syria, they've been taking the headlines for the catalyst of a potential world conflagration, World War III, and no one has really been paying attention to our what many would consider our closest ally in the region, Israel notwithstanding, is Saudi Arabia. Some background and why people may scoff at the reason that Saudi Arabia is actually our closest ally in the Middle East, and I think it really has to do with the petrodollar. The petrodollar has really sustained the American world order throughout since at least the 1970s, when Nixon got us off of the gold standard and moved us off of out of Bretton Woods. Instead of the gold standard, we are on what I would say is an oil standard. Dollars for oil, oil for dollars, and the whole world has had to play by this game, and that's what's kept the American economy, economy going forward, is this overvalued American dollar, because no matter who you are in the world, if you want to buy oil, well, you need dollars. Dollars are a absolute necessity in buying oil. And as a quick little sidestep here, as you'll see from our friends in Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and some other folks, that if you try to move off that oil standard, you're going to be in some significant trouble. You cannot go off the oil standard, the petrodollar. That you'll pay the consequence for that. It's interesting, you hear all the libs and the tree huggers and the progressives and the anti-war pinkos all scream whenever there's a Republican president, no blood for oil. And what they don't understand is we're not fighting and going over there so we can actually literally extract oil from these countries. The main point of that is to keep the petrodollar where it is as the currency in oil trading, and Saudi Arabia is the linchpin of that. They are at the time, and at least on paper, the world's largest oil producing, oil exporting country, and so they are able to set the rules as far as selling oil for dollars and making sure that OPEC goes along with that scheme as well. Now, what we're going to be seeing here over the next few years, and maybe coming faster than we would really like and expect, is the petro yuan. That is the Chinese currency, and China is planning on making a play on taking out the petrodollar, replacing the dollar. I shouldn't say replacing. I don't think they really want to replace themselves as the world hegemonic currency, but they do want to derail the dollar as that hegemonic currency. Not surprising. They want to cut us down to a reasonable size, a size that they can handle more easily and readily, and that petrodollar is what sustains us. You may not know this, but before the dollar, it was other currencies have been the world currency before, and they've all fallen. The British pound is probably the last one that we know of in the British Empire, but there have been plenty more before that. So we are just the latest edition of this world hegemonic currency, and unfortunately we may be witnessing the end of that currency. China plans on they've been amassing gold at a breathtaking speed over the past couple years, and they're ready to what they say is they're going to buy oil in yuan, their own currency, instead of dollars, and if you, as that yuan holder, can convert it into gold at any time that you wish, which is basically putting China on their own gold standard. So this may cause significant problems for us. And we'll get into that on another D program. But today we're going to talk about specifically Saudi Arabia. What the heck is going on in the desert kingdom over there? You may not know, but the new, I think he's still the crown prince. He's about to be named king, I think, very shortly here. The anagram MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, as the strongman of Saudi Arabia currently. He's basically jailed his opposition. When I say jailed, we think of the county lockup. They're getting put into the Ritz-Carlton. Now, they're sleeping on, bare mattresses, but nevertheless, it looks like they're being taken care of pretty well. Although I saw a report today that they have American mercenaries that are guarding these Saudi royals, and I don't want to use the word torture. In fact, I don't know if I even believe the report. I would say that this is I think that this is a report of American military from a less reputable place trying to make this seem as an American government job here as far as what the Crown Prince is pulling off in Saudi Arabia. Now, what's going on here is that he's arresting people. Members of the royal family, businessmen, even our old friend Osama bin Laden. I don't know if it's his father, his uncle, it's some relative. He's the leader of the boss, the head honcho of bin Laden construction in Saudi Arabia. He's arrested. Bin Talbin, the guy that owns, I think it's Twitter and News Corp and Hyatt Hotels. The list goes on and on. He's been arrested, and in total, the Crown Prince has seized the assets in total of, I think it's like $194 billion. Now, the reason why that's important is that it's twofold. Sure, the money's important. The kingdom is running short on cash. These low oil prices over the past year or so have significantly impacted their bottom line and their ability to fund themselves. You may not know this, but if you're Saudi Arabian, you get pretty good subsidies. If you're a member of the royal family, you get astronomical subsidies. And there are thousands of members of the royal family. Think about how difficult it is to control your family and your cousins and second cousins and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews who go out there and raise hell. And you try to do what they can to steer them right, but they're their own people. They do their own things. Now imagine that you're a royal family with thousands of cousins. That's going to create some problems. And so it appears that the Mohammed bin Salman is on the warpath to round up the family, to get the family in line. He says that he's returning, I got air quotes in here, returning Saudi Arabia to a more moderate form of Islam. Getting away from this Wahhabism and radical Islam. And I guess I'll believe it when I see it. Now this gentleman, the up-and-coming king, I believe is 32 or 34, so he's definitely a younger man. Especially for Saudi royal politics, he's a baby. We're talking about usually these Saudi royal upper royals, the kings and the crown princes have been in their 60s and 70s and 80s and very old people. So this man thinks he's shaking it up. He's taking Saudi Arabia away from Wahhabism. That's a good thing, as far as I can tell. He's rounding up the folks who are funding terrorism, who've been a thorn in our side for years now. That's a good thing. He's opening up more freedom. Women are supposed to be able to drive next year. Another good thing. What may or may not be a good thing, though, is that I think that he's gearing up for war against Iran, and that's where we started the conversation. Is World War III about to go off in the Middle East between Iran and Saudi Arabia? A Sunni Shia civil war. Is this going to be the culmination of decades, centuries, millennia of fighting between Sunni and Shia? We've seen it taking off in Lebanon and Syria and Yemen and Libya, these places where Iran is trying to get a hold, and Saudi Arabia is having none of it. They're a Sunni powerhouse. Iran is a Shia powerhouse. and they're going to. It's the blows are seen to be getting fought over in different places. And the war is not in Iran. The war isn't in Saudi Arabia. It's been in Lebanon and Syria and Iraq. But is the war coming to Iran or Saudi Arabia? I think that's the real question. And if you've been reading PeterDegedo.com, you've been seeing some things that some of my Middle Eastern Muslim readers have not been a fan of. But Saudi Arabia and Israel, secret alliance, not so secret anymore. Saudi Arabia realizes one thing. They have a lot of money, but they don't have a lot of people, and they don't have a lot of, weaponry. Now, let me put it differently. They, comparatively in the Middle East, they have the top-tier Air Force. Russia and China are pretty intent on maintaining a balance of power in the Middle East. They understand Iran has a lot more people and a lot more ability if they had the weaponry to really take over the Middle East. But Russia and China is more of playing this old chess game of balance of power. They both sell anti-air defense systems to each country. Saudi Arabia gets the model that's just a little bit better, just to make sure that they, even though they don't have the army and the manpower to take on Iran, that they're able to fend them off with superior technology. Saudi Arabia is realizing that Israel could be their attack dog in the region, that recognizing Israel could bring with them some benefits, which is that Israel will fight for them, that Israel has the capability, the chutzpah, I guess you would say in that kind of term, the willingness to fight. They've been fighting in Syria, in Lebanon. They're willing to drop bombs. They've obviously willing to go into Gaza and West Bank and do what they need to do there. So I think Saudi Arabia is looking around and looking for friends in the region, knowing that of all the friends in the Middle East, Israel might be the biggest, baddest friend to have. And you're seeing more and more of this Sunni Jewish alliance coming out. You may have noticed that ISIS, they talk some bluster, but they never really struck inside of Israel proper. One of the reasons for that, I think, is that they are ISIS, al-Nusra, these terrorist organizations that have basically Trump has just, lack of a better term, kicked their butts, and they're really in significant retreat. But under Obama, they operated freely, even with our support. And so, those ISIS is a Sunni proxy army. Is a military wing of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia has, I believe, what appears to be secret alliances with Israel, and that's why they haven't really seen much Sunni terrorism in Israel, and why why Saudi Arabia is really pushing and prodding Israel to take action against Hezbollah. Hezbollah is another proxy army of Iran. So you've got this proxy army of Iran who is helping Bashar al-Assad rout ISIS. They're in Lebanon. They're in Golan Heights. They're right there on Israel's border. They've been threatening Israel. That is Israel's arch nemesis currently. Iran, Hezbollah, one and the same. And so I think that Saudi Arabia thinks that with enough money and enough recognition that Israel will take action. Now, this whole thing might spark it off. You got potentiality of Israel taking on Hezbollah, who's obviously shown themselves to be battle-hardened. I don't think that they have the capability to take on a sustained conflict versus Israel, especially without backing from their Sunni Muslim cousins. But Iran is willing to fight that fight, and I think willing to pour arms and money and whatever is needed into that area. And so I think Israel is treading very lightly here, doing what they can to keep everything as cool in the region as they possibly can. If anything, I think they'd prefer for the United States to do the bidding of Israel, who's doing the bidding of Saudi Arabia. It's interesting how everyone got each other by the balls here, and everyone's trying to pull each other in the direction they want pulled, and maybe it's not always going in the same way. Nevertheless, Saudi Arabia is the place to look. It is the spot currently between them and Iran that a potentiality of significant war breaking out. But we could also see something new flourishing. And we're at a fork in the road here in the Middle East between Israeli and Middle East relations and politics. Will we go one way, where Saudi Arabia, the Sunni countries, actually officially recognize Israel, their right to exist, help negotiate for a finalized peace in that area, and work with the United States, Russia, and Iran to maintain a balance of power with Iran as a Sunni and Shia, no one has the upper hand to keep everyone at bay? Or does this thing descend into madness, where one poke from Saudi Arabia or from Hezbollah pushes into a shove from Israel or Saudi Arabia or Qatar, Qatar? It's more of these proxy armies, but it's definitely a powder keg. That's the spot, and it always seems to be the spot. We look around at North Korea and some other places, but it appears that once again, the Middle East is the spot to look at. And so keep looking at peterdegedo.com for the latest updates on Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Middle Eastern politics.